Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for Video Game Talk. It is May 26th, 2021, and in today's episode I wanted to go over an idea that I had for Nintendo in creating what I call Nintendo Extreme Sports Racing. This is a 3-in-1 variety sports game that I have in mind for Nintendo Switch or perhaps future Nintendo hardware that include updates to Wave Race, 1080 Snowboarding, and Excitebike. Now, before I go in depth of how I see this game working potentially, I wanted to introduce you a little bit to each of the three games that gave me this idea. The first being Wave Race 64. Released for Nintendo 64 in 1996, it was a Kawasaki jet ski racing game and was really unique for the time. I myself am a fan of riding jet skis. It's not a hobby that I do too often, but for the several times that I have been on a jet ski, I really enjoy it. It really feels fun being out there in the ocean, choppy waves, and feeling the power beneath you and just gliding over the water. Kawasaki is a fun sport. Wave Race 64 really captured that extreme sport on cartridge format back in 1996. You played as a fun cast of characters, there was solid music in the game, and what was really most well known probably in that title were the water physics. Nintendo found a way how to really capture different levels of water. You bob it up and down in your watercraft. You know, some oceans were more choppy, some lakes were more smooth. You would feel the wake of different craft behind you, had decent collision detection. Like I said, a fun soundtrack, and was a 1996 title, so didn't even include Rumble, which I think would be felt really greatly today in HD Rumble, courtesy of the Joy-Con and the Pro Controller and such. Now, we did get a Wave Race title, Blue Storm, on Nintendo GameCube, which was also another solid game, so Rumble in itself wouldn't be brand new to the series, but I think could be really nicely realized today by feeling a rumble on the right side of your controller or the left, or a vibration getting smaller or greater depending on the collision, the gentle waves or the crashing waves beneath you, perhaps even water effects coming down from rain and feeling those individual taps. There's a lot that could go on, but like I said, before I dive too deeply into how I see this game, I wanted to bring you back in time to 1996 and talk a little bit about Wave Race and why it's a cool title and why I like it and why I want to see it come back, because we don't really get this type of watercraft racing game these days. And moving on to 1080, coming out in 1998, you know, it was also a racing game for Nintendo Switch in a time where racing games that were of the snowboarding variety were pretty popular. We had Snowboarding Kids, we had SSX, and once again, 1080 didn't just get a one and done release on Nintendo 64. It also had a 1080p snowboarding GameCube title, which was pretty well received, Avalanche. And I do like snowboarding in this real world, unlike jet skiing, which I don't do too often. Snowboarding I do more often. I have my own snowboard. I like to go into the mountains and I like the snow. And this game really captured snowboarding well. Once again, fun soundtrack, cool characters, crossover characters with Wave Race 64 for that matter. And with the inclusion of the Rumble Pack, since the Rumble Pack came out a year earlier, we got the feeling of going over ice, over hitting a tree, hitting other snowboarders that were going down the mountainside alongside us, and feeling the difference between, you know, ice and powder. This game had good visual effects, similar to how Nintendo captured water physics really well, and the visuals of water, different shades of blue and green, clear versus cloudy, bobbing up and down. They captured the snow effects pretty well too, as you actually got a sensation of powder. Of course, you could say that Wave Race, Blue Storm, and 1080 Snowboarding Avalanche just did that much better of a job, but I'm really going back to the roots of these first two titles in the series. And similar to Wave Race, you don't get that many snowboarding games these days for this art. Not from 1080, not from anything, and I want to see that come back. I especially think with HD Rumble, yet again, you're going to get some nice degrees of vibration in going down the mountain and really feeling the difference beneath your feet, which would be in your hands from the controller, of different levels of rumble sensitivity. And finally, Excitebike 64. Unlike the other two titles, this wasn't the first entry in the franchise. We did have the original Excitebike on the NES, and we also had an Excite Truck game that came out several years later on Nintendo's Wii platform. And, even in the last several years, we technically had an Excitebike design-inspired course in Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but we haven't had a proper Excitebike game since this one, which was in the year 2000. Now, at this point, Nintendo had rumble technology, which you could really feel in this game as you were revving up your motorcycle, your motocross bike, and it had a really nice learning curve where it was fun to just play, but difficult to master and to time all of your jumps and to get your steering right to make tight turns. Once again, a good racing game, not as popular as a Wave Race, not as popular as a Mario Kart or an F-Zero, but still pretty well received. And with also the inclusion of the expansion pack, this game ended up being a pretty good looking title. Now, Nintendo 64 by the year 2000 was already 4 years in, and the next generation was upon us in video gaming, so certain titles from that era were starting to look outdated, but this title held its own in 2000, and I want to see what Nintendo could do in the realistic world of extreme sports, particularly with Excitebike, with going through the mud, with going through the sand, with riding over asphalt in a new modern take, whether it's desert or jungle terrain. We know Nintendo is masters of tapping into their own hardware, and whether it's a stylistic, cel-shaded type of look, like from Wind Waker, or when they do try to go for something that's realistic, they more often than not achieve their results. So combine this title with HD Rumble and the power of Nintendo Switch, you're going to get a pretty nice looking racing game. And I think the physics, what you feel behind your controller, part of me had fun and inspiration for this idea when I was playing through The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and unlocked Link's motorcycle in the game. And I thought, gosh, I could go for a new Excitebike. So this original idea of mine came several years prior, and at the time was just a Wave Race 1080 crossover title that I had in mind dating back to early Wii U era. And then when 2017-18 came along, I was really thinking, this has got to be a 3-in-1. So I'm just going to go back and paint a little picture for you. All three games are racing titles. They all pretty much are linear, going in a line. So I don't think it's necessarily impossible or too far-fetched to believe that Nintendo couldn't do this game without creating three completely different engines. When it comes to snowboarding, you're pretty much going from top to bottom down a hill, going left and right, making twists and turns, going up and down hills along the way, weaving in and out of trees. You have a ramp that goes up to the side, a half pipe. You have a half pipe that goes over here. You have a ramp that goes towards and down. In Excitebike, you're going forward and you're making turns left and right on a path on the dirt, whether you have trees behind you or guardrails behind you, alongside you. You're going up and down hills. You're making high jumps and landing back down on the dirt and curving back and forth. Both games have a certain drifting mechanic, as in snowboarding, you really can drift, and in motocross, you really can drift. And in Wave Race, once again, kind of like Excitebike, a little bit more so than 1080 snowboarding, you're going from forward to back and you're going around buoys instead of going in between trees or going in between other racers if it's Excitebike. You're going in between buoys and still other racers. You're going up and down on the water. You're going around the curve of a bend, whether it's a dock on a peaceful lake or if it's in choppy waters, you've got ramps that go up. You see what I mean? Linear racing games going from back to front, with 1080 being back to front but also dipping downhill a bit. I think Nintendo could create one solid engine and just give you 3 different types of vehicles that you could ride on. And when it comes to the water effects, you're dealing with up and down. When you're dealing with mud, you're still dealing with up and down. And when you're dealing with snow, you're still dealing with up and down. Now, it's not just that easy because they are different terrains. You do have to have a slight different ability to drift. Drifting in water and turning mechanics on a jet ski is going to be a little bit different than on a motocross vehicle. But overall, you're still turning from left to right, and you still got your acceleration, and you still got your jump, and you still got your brake, and your left and right. And doing tricks could still be the same way, whether it's down an A, up an A, doing a circular, half circular motion this way or that way, and pushing B. Different things could still work off each other and have one really nice package. Nintendo, Extreme Sports Racing. The way I also would want to pitch it is you could pick from the select screen, do you want to play 1080 snowboarding? And you would just go through 1080 snowboarding's brand new courses made for this video game. Would you want to select Excitebike and go through just these courses? Would you select Wave Race and play in just these courses? Column 8, 8, and 8. Pick your character. Same characters could go and fill up the entire roster. If Nintendo did not want to brand, because it would be too much to brand with Kawasaki, too much to brand with these different motocross outlets like Bell or Scott, then you could just make a generic looks when it comes to the motocross vehicles, generic looks when it comes to the snowboarding brands, and generic jet skis, if they wanted to go that route. Of course, if they wanted to go a little bit bigger, they could actually get real snowboarding brands involved and Kawasaki involved, and they could get these different sponsors for motocross involved. But allowing the user to choose what sport they want to play, and having, of course, couch co-op or online co-op, online leaderboards, online versus modes that whichever sport you're playing, you're going to have 8 players in total. You could have teams of 2, you could have 4 versus 4, or every player for him or herself. I think it would be a lot of fun. I picked 8 because that's a manageable number. It doesn't get too crowded if it's snowboarding. It doesn't get too crowded if it's motocross. It doesn't get too crowded if it's jet skiing. Let me know what you think so far, if you made it this far in, and I appreciate your impact, your feedback, I should say. Now, the really cool idea that I had, though, isn't just there. And you would say, well, why not release them independently? And that's because, these games came out, like I said, in 1996, 1998, and 2000, respectively, for Nintendo 64, and they retailed for $60 back in the day. With inflation, that's worth a decent amount more nowadays. But as a 2021 release with the gaming landscape, would people be willing to necessarily pay $60 just for a new Wave Race, $60 just for a new Excitebike, $60 just for a new 1080? Especially since the franchises are kind of old. We haven't had new versions in quite some years. There's a lot of other competition out there when it comes to the racing landscape on other machines. And would any one of these 3 games be seen as a giant value of I have to get it compared to the inevitable Mario Kart 9 or even the existing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? Maybe not. But a 3-in-1 racing game, now you see some of that Mario Kart appeal. It's got a lot of players to play as, a fun cast, online support, couch co-op or versus support for up to 4 people at once, and 3 different types of racing. You look at Mario Kart, you see you could go underwater, You could ride on land. You could do your hovercraft, which is also on land, and you could hang glide. So you kind of have 4 different modes of travel in modern day Mario Kart games. Add some unique things in these games like a course builder perhaps, or when it comes to the 1080 side of things, have a designated half pipe. When it comes to wave race, have designated just playing off of ramps, or a little bit of a free-form area where you could make your own playground and play in it. Make your own rings to go through. When it comes to Excitebike, have a little playground. Have just a giant square mud pit, I'm getting flashbacks to Wario's stage from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and traveling through the mud and how I want to have that. Now you might say, part of what makes Mario Kart successful is the Mario brand, that appeal. Could you throw in some Nintendo characters into this game? I would say you could. Mario and Co. entered the world of street basketball back in the day, so you could definitely find a way to successfully have Mario and friends, these cartoon characteristics with different proportions, be involved in realistic racing games like I'm suggesting here with realistic visuals, but I wouldn't say necessarily make it completely, Mario Extreme Sports Racing. No, I would call it Nintendo Extreme Sports Racing, because there is such a thing as building up different brands so that they could exist on their own right, Splatoon, what if it was just Mario Paint? Mario Inktopia, or something like that, right? What if they never came up with Splatoon as a name? The Splatoon characters. It now exists as its own franchise. People like the Inklings. People like the Octolings. People like that world. It's not just, okay, Mario and Peach and Luigi and Donkey Kong and Bowser and the Koopas in Mario-esque levels, and that's Splatoon. That's, Mario's Splatoon. Mario's Splatfest. It would be a very different game. It would work well, it would sell well, but it would be Mario related. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's important to have different powerhouse brands, If you need to use a couple of Nintendo characters to attract people into this game, you could play as Mario, that's cool. You could play as Link, that's cool. But the rest of the characters are either characters from the past or brand new characters made up, custom characters that you could create yourself. I think that's also important. And now I want to get into how I see another attractive mode in this game, and that would be something akin to a story mode. So picture this. You're in a helicopter, and you're looking out, first-person perspective, and you hear the person saying, "Ready to jump, 3, 2, 1. You jump out the helicopter. I said helicopter, didn't I? You jump out the helicopter. Maybe you even parachute down. Maybe you just have a small jump, so there's no other mechanics that you have to build. Not throwing in pilot wings also into this. But you go down, hop on your snowboard, and you begin going down the mountain. You already got this cool, pumped up feeling that you're in the helicopter. You've got the other snowboarders around you. They're all ready to jump out. You don't have to make a giant mechanic of jumping down and flying through rings and stuff like that. That's why I said it could be on the shorter side where it's a jump to a drop. You can't deviate off the path and go on the mountain and glide everywhere. We're not making a Breath of the Wild type game. Go onto the mountaintop and you begin snowboarding. You're going through trees. You see other snowboarders to the left and to the right. You have a few different paths that you could go down in the mountain. You have the generic path that looks like this. It's straight, but you see different things. Some things could be a chain of events where you grind a few different rails and that unlocks this. You crash through this wall and you see that I'm going through a cave, and you see a snowman over here, and you see different paths that are starting to unfold, and this adds to the replayability. And you make your way down the mountain, you make your way down to the mountain, and then at the edge of the mountain, you jump off. Your character does a quick jump on, boom, and you're on your jet ski, and the race continues. This is kind of like a marathon race, right? It's a triathlon. We're going from snowboarding, pow, you just landed on top of the mountain, you're reaching your way down, you go off the ramp, boom, onto your jet ski. You're now going around the mountain. The course now is around the mountain, going through the choppy waves that are hitting you. Off to the right, you've got the ocean. Off to the left, you've got the shores of the beach. Different players have to challenge, go through different buoys. There are some different caves to go through. Once again, a couple of different paths, a couple of shortcuts where here's the mountain, and instead of going around, oh, you found a way how to go through. Okay, making your way to the end. Just as you land, making almost that full 360 spin, hop off your jet ski, bam, land on your motocross. Now it's a point from A to B to go through the mountain, up and over, around on your jet ski to the finish flag. And now you're going through different terrain, jungle off to the left. You're seeing the snow off to the right. Maybe if a player is still playing who is far behind, you've got the snow coming down. You see that snowboarder making his or her way down the path. Maybe off on the side in the distance, you're seeing someone still catch up because they're in the water portion on their jet ski, and you're going through the mud. You're going up and over rocks and such. Same thing. Maybe you grind a couple of fallen trees, and that unlocks this little area. You're going through this cave, and whoop, you fell down, and you're going underground, and you see torches around you, and you're making your way out to the end. Boom. That's one course. And you know how I talked about 8 different courses, right? 8 different areas that you could play in for the snowboarding portion, 8 different areas that you could play in for the jet ski portion, 8 different areas that you could play in for the motocross section. This is what I'm talking about. 8 different mountains that lets you tackle them on the same way. So this is one mountain. This is one course. Whatever the name of the mountain is, it's 3-in-1 if you wish to play the story mode this way. It's the 8 of you, top athletes in the world, a couple of Nintendo characters thrown in there for good measure for extra brand awareness and attractability, but try to make it not necessarily Mario Extreme Sports, but Nintendo Extreme Sports Racing with realistic looking characters. Build up some new characters that people will like, bring some of the old ones back, add some new, and you've got one giant course. You know, some racing games, even in Mario Kart, there's the 3-lap mentality, right? And then there are some courses in Mario Kart, such as in Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe, we're going down this long, snowy mountain, and it's just 3 different places that are lap 1, lap 2, lap 3 as you make your way from top to bottom. This would be like that. The snowboarding portion, you found your way to lap 1, to lap 2, to lap 3, just different check marks, and you automatically hop in to the jet ski portion. And as you make your way through this 360-degree circle of the island, if this is the example that I'm going with, you know, you find your first third, second third, and then you, boom, automatically hop on to the motocross portion as you're making your way through the jungle, the first, the second, the third. Now, not every mountain has to be this way. Some mountains could be in a reverse order, perhaps. Maybe you start off with the jet skiing portion because you're outside from another island and you have to make it from this small island onto the big island. You go onto the motocross from there, and you're making your way up this mountain to the top, in which then you hop off, and now you're in the snowboarding part to go all the way down. So you see that one goes from other island in the ocean to big island to motocross through to the top to snowboard on the way down. You know, just one more idea. And you could find a way to make it work in another way where you're, you know, motocross through one channel, you make your way to the snowboarding section, you land, you go back into the water. This is just one idea of a way how to include all 3 fast-paced, boom, 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 into kind of a story mode where you're tackling these different islands, these different situations From a gameplay perspective, this sounds like a lot of fun. From a visual perspective, this looks beautiful in my mind. I'm seeing blues, snow, white. I'm feeling powder. I'm seeing cold effects. I'm hearing steel being grinded on. I'm feeling fluff beneath my Joy-Con with a Pro Controller, either one with the HD Rumble. I'm feeling, I'm hearing some vibration and some rumble in my motocross. I'm feeling the choppy waves, and I'm seeing coconuts and palm trees. I'm seeing beautiful night scenes with a moon coming down into the ocean and glistening on the water, the reflection. I'm having some fun with some Mario characters. A couple of them. You could put in Mario and Link. You could put in Princess Peach. Just a few, really. Maybe as DLC later on you add more, but you try to build it up as its own thing. I wanted to let you know this idea. I've been thinking about it for so long. Like I said, at least from 2012, I would say, I was thinking about a 1080 crossover wave race title, and in 2017, no later than early 2018, I threw in Excitebike into this idea and came up with the final title, Nintendo Extreme Sports Racing. Let me know what you thought. I would love to see this game be made one day. Do you like the idea of these three franchises coming back in this way? Let me know. Thank you for watching. This is Paul Gale Network signing out. Hope you all have a good one, and I'll look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section below and talking more about it together. All right, take it easy. Bye.